Yeah, I know Scaly's. He was a big user of the site as well. I would have liked to. Wish he let me know. Maybe for the next drop.
Yeah, these are cool though. It's like scrolling through them. The one of ones for sure. Did you see all the like the major artists? Like they got like yeah, Gremplin's got one. The Gremplin actually sold while we were setting up for this 9 ETH. Interested to see where they go. And it was a yeah, do a little jiving as we're kind of getting everything all set and in place. All right, I think everything's good tech wise. I think we have the YouTube stream looks good. It's running. Um, that's live. The screen share looks good. I think we're all set in the Discord. Probably maybe wait a couple more minutes for people to file in and then kind of get into it, I imagine.
Good. I just sent a tweet out and tagged some of the projects we'll be talking about. I know the tweet from yesterday also included some charts, graphs, and tags regarding some of the projects we were likely going to be talking through here.
Yeah. It's just wild to see like the gamblers in like the NFT space like that reveal and post reveal like dump and like everyone just who holds through it every time, you know.
Yeah, it's usually
Yep.
definitely that pre reveal pump, post reveal dump, price discovery, and then kind of see what things even out and settle. So you said you'll be holding plan for now.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, so Tom has that problem too.
Definitely regret.
Yeah. Let's say I regret the sales more than the things that I've
Bag held till zero. It's like if I didn't sell some of
these things earlier,
be in a much better, an even better
spot, I guess, with my collection, my portfolio. Time
needed some of those sales to kind of
invest into
some of the projects to kind of keep
things moving. So it's like if you don't have
and the income stream
without any kind of expenses, like you almost
need to be selling off
to be able to reinvest.
Yeah, definitely tough. I definitely find myself I'm like agreeing with you. Like the things I've sold way too early, you know, Proof, the Webland Penthouse are like the things I like regret the most. There's not a lot of things I'm really holding that I'm like, I should have sold the top on that.
Yeah, I think.
It's the magic of NFTs. It's it's a token just like just like a cryptocurrency, like an ERC20. It's a token, but you know it has that artwork and a little bit of community attached to it, which kind of keeps you invested emotionally.
Yeah, I agree. So we're going to start with aliens, it looks like.
Yeah, maybe let me take a look, see what else is going on. I mean, maybe want to start with Grails and kind of set the room that way potentially, and then kind of move on to something that people may be less familiar with. Does that make sense to you guys?
Sure. Yeah, and definitely anyone who's out there, listening. I think we have a few people that are in here now. Victor, Beazle, definitely feel free to request to speak. Hop up on stage if there's anything you'd like to talk about or chime in. Definitely always open to opening up the discussion a bit more as we're getting into things. But yeah, you guys ready to roll? Awesome. I don't know if we want to also share.
We do have the
YouTube link. Is that I don't know if we want to share that or make sure that people have access to that as well. We are kind of going through a few different sites, clicking around WGMI as well, and kind of showing showing a few different charts, graphs, pieces of art. So definitely want to encourage everyone to jump on the YouTube live as well. But yeah, Ray, I think we wanted to start off talking a little bit about Grails 2 here. The Grails 2 Mint Pass was Proof Collective Pass holders and Moonbirds that have the Grail Headwear trait on Monday. Revealing the different pieces of art throughout the week. Minting starts next Tuesday, August 16th. August 23rd, the following Tuesday, and there will be a live reveal 25th. So I have a proof pass, and I got a Grails 2 Mint Pass. Ray, I know you purchased a Mint Pass off secondary. Curious if you want to just kind of talk a little bit about kind of you jumping in and why you made that purchase. I think a little bit about kind of strategy, at least from my experience and kind of my approach, at least during one, and maybe speculate on some of the pieces of. But yeah, just pass it over to you initially, just to kind of talk about the decision behind buying a pass and hoping to be part of this drop this time around.
Yeah, sure. I know I kind of watched you struggle with the decision a bit for Grails 1, and I was kind of following along from the sidelines. And it's something that definitely it kind of interested me, like looking at the pieces, trying to figure out what I would mint if I had it. But now that they're allowing the mint passes to be purchased, I figured I've got to jump in Grails 2. So I was kind of watching it on its run up. I put an offer in. I think I got in around 4 ETH. So didn't quite get a great deal. I mean, I think we're on like 3.2 or 3. Where are we at right now? 3.5. So it's been
looks like
been climbing. Yeah, climbing a little bit here. But I wanted to make sure that I had a ticket to the show this time. Looking at the supply of Grails 1 and the floor, I know there was some talk in the Proof Discord as well that kind of I've heard like kind of valuing the Proof 2 pass, the Grails 2 pass around 4 ETH for kind of your average like expected value. And so I figured that was a good price. I was fine getting in there, and like I've been looking over all these pieces, and it's like I don't know if I should have done it now. I'm not going to be able to make a decision on these. I'm always put myself in a stressful situation by jumping in. I'm sure you faced something similar with Grails 1. Like, walk me through kind of your experience with the first Grails and like how you kind of ended up choosing.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Grails 1 really was such a cool experience. Talked about a few times, just kind of the agony that went into making the call. So I have the Grails 1 pieces up now. For anyone who's not familiar with the process, so beforehand, all you saw was the art pieces. We didn't see a name, we didn't see an artist, we didn't really know anything about the pieces. There was a ton of kind of speculation, research, just a lot of trying to figure out who the artists were behind each of these pieces. I think a lot of beautiful, really great pieces of art in here. A lot of very well-known artists and names. The two biggest ones, Glyph piece by Larva Labs, which was kind of the basis Autoglyph project. The first kind of prototype of that, along with The
The Wall by
Tyler
Tyler
Hobbs. I know those were some really some really great pieces that were highly speculated about. But it was you did see how many have minted or selected at the time, but you didn't and weren't able to see who. I mean, I was sending links to Ray and other Discord, asking friends, asking family, which one do you guys like the most? Which one do you think I should pick? It's definitely tough when you only have one option, or if you can only mint one. So
definitely tricky trying to
settle on one if you like more than one. And I think trying to settle on something that you find appealing, that you wouldn't mind kind of holding and viewing within your wallet. I think those probably the best way to approach it, instead of trying to speculate behind artists or trying to speculate which the best return. Because if you're wrong at that point, then you're going to have something in your wallet that you're not you don't really enjoy holding or looking. So I think some of that, it is definitely very very tricky to settle on one that you like the most. I mean, the reveal process was just so cool between everyone in the Discord, and I think Ryan Carson at the time was part of Proof there, and I think they were, and Justin as well. They just kind of went through and they revealed them in a random order, and it was just between Twitter going crazy, Discord going crazy, watching the live stream. I mean, it was such a cool experience, and being a part of that, definitely would encourage anyone who doesn't have a mint pass to either make sure you're tuning in, or to try to buy one to be able to speculate, and to try to be able to pick one that you might really like and connect with. I mean, there's still a few here that have yet to be revealed, but a lot of really cool, awesome, pieces of art. I think this one was just, this is kind of the newest one that was revealed, I think, over the past day. I think that might be my favorite at this point in time. But I know there's a ton of, there's Airtable documents, Google Docs, about people just kind of speculating between, the artists behind a lot of these, whether they kind of went back digging through Twitter tweets or just Discord threads or anything else. Like this one specifically, I believe, Drifter tweeted about a few months ago, so a lot of people are assuming that that's him. With some of this, I think they said it could be, what you're seeing here might not necessarily be the final product, which was a little bit different from Grails 1, where what you saw was what you were getting. I don't think things will change too drastically, but it's definitely possible the piece, evolves a little bit or changes a little bit during the reveal process. But definitely curious, Ray, what your thoughts are on, what your front runners are, or kind of where you're leaning right now in terms of the ones that you're interested in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 10, we were talking, getting ready for the show, and that one dropped, and I mean, that looks, awesome. I really vibe with kind of the style, the color palette, kind of like really speaks to me personally and my taste. You get that strobe flash effect, and it's like, oh, is that X copy? That weird face on there, that, and you're looking at it again, like in the bottom left, is that like a squiggle that's there? It's like a crudely drawn, flashing kind of squiggly like thing, all kinds of these little bits and pieces that you kind of pick up as you're kind of looking, deeper and deeper at the artwork, which is cool. Definitely like 10. Before 10 was dropped today, I really like 23. 23 is pretty cool. Just a really cool vibe. I'm looking to get a few like smart frames, or maybe potentially build out one or two with like Raspberry Pis to kind of display NFTs. And I think a lot of these kind of, animated artworks kind of lend themselves to those kind of displays. It'd be cool to put one up, in my office to kind of have rotating through some of the art I own. And then outside of 23, 15 and 20 also kind of caught my eye. 15 is like very like simple, and it just is almost like soothing, kind of looking at, the way the lines kind of just barely kind of move back and forth. I really enjoy the aesthetic here. But looking at these, I mean, it's hard to kind of guess like who the artists are going to be. I'm sure I'm going to be putting in some more time into that and kind of seeing what the community has kind of solved or think they solved. but I don't know if that's going to like kind of influence my final decision. I think I'm going to play it like Tom was saying along lines of, figuring out what I would want to have in my wallet long term and want to be looking at. Yeah, that one's interesting. Like, is that a photograph that's been like glitched a bit? It's
Yeah, I
very,
know there was
very
there was some
interesting.
speculation this was like members of Tame Impala were at some kind of concert, and a real photograph from whatever that show was. Um, I think Nucci talked about this on Twitter Spaces, but this dude on the left with the black eyes and the hair, it just seems like he's like staring straight through my soul. He's pretty scary looking there. I know.
Right.
Looks like Brennan has his hand up right now. I don't know if we want to give Brennan a chance to jump in and ask a question or provide any kind of context around this.
Yeah. So you can, I mean, the first Grails one was airdrop to proof holders. So it was a 1-to-1 for the passes, I believe. So there were 1,000. And then I think they minted some additional for the team. It might have been like 50. And well, sorry, they weren't airdropped. It was a claim. So 1,000 were potentially claimed. I think it might have been like 50 to the team, but not all 1,000 were claimed by proof holders, and the total supply looks like it has fallen to 1036 for Grails 1. Grails 2, we know exactly how many mint passes are out there. That's been airdropped, and it's kind of finalized at this point. And that went to proof holders and nested moonbirds with the Grails trait, and I believe some additional for the team. But that total supply is 1174. So you're looking at 1036 versus 1174 in terms of the difference in supply. So 138 more on the new one, which is roughly about a 13% increase of supply off of Grails 1. And I think a lot of this math was kind of like nailed down in the proof Discord. Someone was talking about like a 13% increase in supply. You're looking at the Grails 1 floor at 1.3. So if you take 87% of that, it's a floor of 1.1, but then you need to factor in kind of the average. The floor piece is the floor piece, but then, you also had a chance of getting the protoglyph or the wall or the Dmitry Cherniak intersection, which have, higher floors. So I think the like kind of the average expected value is somewhere around like 6 or so. I'm not exactly sure. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know when I kind of adjusted for supply and looked at the average floor price for each, it was kind of like right around 4 ETH would be the kind of break even point for Grails 2. And that's where I was, happy to jump in and put an offer in for a pass.
Anything in particular with you? Are you going to hold and just kind of look at it from an art perspective, or if there is a price run, are you going to maybe let it go at a specific price? I am curious for your perspectives there.
Yeah, there's always a price, that you're gonna sell at. I try not to just say, hey, I'm gonna hold something indefinitely. I want to experience Grails too. It's definitely something. Yes, I do want to experience it, but there's always a price point that I would say, maybe I'll pass. And I think that's probably if you get up around that, 6 ETH kind of, expected value location, but I'm not sure it's going to run there. There's a couple interesting, changes to the mechanics, Grails 1 versus Grails 2, that'll be interesting to see play out. This being a mint pass, you're going to be burning the supply. So, there's going to be less and less supply over time as the mint phase is still open. So you're kind of could be driving demand into a supply that may not want to sell. It'll be interesting to see kind of how the price fluctuates once mint opens up.
Yeah, definitely. It's tricky. I mean, I had a proof pass. I was airdropped this for free, I guess.
If you
think of
it that way,
and it's, I could potentially sell
list it now
and kind of walk away with 3 ETH, but I think, it's
just really cool experience
to be a part of, cool to have
and
own, a piece of art that I
really do,
like the way it looks, or just, want to, like, similar to what Ray said, kind of hang it up in my office, or, also
have a chance at minting something from just an artist whose work
I don't currently have at the moment, or someone, to be gain
exposure to new artists, onto other pieces
and other works that they've done in the past. So, I think all of that is definitely just
a really cool process to be a part of.
But like you said, I mean, everyone has a price, everything has a price. I mean, I'd definitely be curious to see what happens to the price of these as people are trading them in and kind of selecting their mints and everything else. What does that do as the supply is coming down? Does that demand increase ahead of the reveal? It'll definitely be interesting to see how everything plays out. I'm sure some people will likely mint and jump in right away, and there's probably going to be people that are hanging on to it until the very end, and potentially either trying to sell or making a last minute decision on which one they want to select and mint there. So it's definitely, I like that they're kind of doing it with a mint pass now. I think that's a good way to handle it, and definitely be interesting to see kind of how things play out from here. Yeah, unless anyone has anything else on Grails, could probably reset the room a little bit and then move on to aliens if everyone's cool with that.
Yeah, and if anyone has anything to add on here, feel free to request and come up. We'd love to have you. But in case you are just tuning in, this is the NFT Market Chat with WGMI.io. We've been doing this. I think this is our 3rd or 4th show now, but we do this every single Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We break down what's happened in the last week in the crypto market, in the NFT market, and what's going to happen in the next week, and give our takes, our strategies on it, and as well as give additional insights that we found using the WGMI tool. If you want to see the visual side of what we're talking about, you can actually also jump on our YouTube live. We're also streaming there. I pinned the tweet up at the top, and you should be able to watch that as well. If you have any thoughts, questions, additional comments you'd like to add to the conversation, definitely please come up and chat. We'd love to have you. And one last, we'd love to have you retweet the room, get a little bit more of a listening in here, and obviously add on to the conversation. The more people we can add to contribute to this, the better. But moving on, and it's actually what's, I think, most relevant to what's going on right now is that Aliens reveal. We're watching it play out right now, and it's been about 30 minutes in. If, Ray, you want to break that down for us.
Yeah, definitely. The Aliens project was released earlier this week. Free mint. It has a very strong kind of OG team behind it here. Tom's showing kind of their website and the team behind it. You have Scaling Nelson, Debosi, Punk Vandalay, some real OGs in the space, kind of behind the project. And it's been something they've been working on for a while. I think they've kind of stated that, this is their passion project, something that, they're kind of doing because they enjoy doing it, which is kind of a good thing to hear. In terms of like the utility and plans, it's really like a no roadmap project where it's kind of, there's nothing promised. Maybe it's kind of meme or like, they surprise and delight without any kind of, hard promises at launch. It was a free mint. It has a 0% royalties. The way the team is, getting paid and then funding future development is they held back 20% of the supply, 10% to the founders and 10% to the kind of treasury, where they can, either sell and pay for future development, or, maybe just use the NFTs as kind of like how they are paying for the development, which is an interesting model. And there's definitely some cool art here. I don't know if you want to kind of go through the artists and the one of ones here on this this page, Tom.
Sure. Yeah. So I got that up now. It looks like there's been a few of these one-of-one artist sales, or a few bigger sales that I saw kind of going off on the Project Explorer when we had that up. I'm sure there were a few others on Looks Rare and other marketplaces, but here's our Project Explorer is currently just showing some of those OpenSea sales. We saw this one here for 5.88. Another sale for 7.77 ETH. 7.5 ETH. So definitely a lot of big sales here over the past 10 minutes after the project was revealed. Still seems like a good, decent volume, floor around 0.4. Still a lot of listings that are coming through here as well, though. But these one of ones, like you said, you got Ack, Brian Brinkman, Hackatow, Gremplin, a few others that are obviously very, very well known and popular artists and names in the space. So definitely, looking at the art, I know they just revealed. I think that they personally think they look really cool. I know, Brennan was able to mint one here. His look pretty neat as well. Didn't get a one-on-one, but I think, curious, Brennan, what your plan is as a holder. I think I know what you'll be doing, but if you want to pop on, curious your thoughts around the project, around the founders, and how you'll be approaching it. Yeah, awesome. I think definitely seems like something worth speculating on, worth kind of hanging on to for a little bit and just kind of seeing where things go. I personally big fan of I think the art looks really cool. Looks a bit better than I was even expecting, especially some of these one-on-ones. It's great to see bigger names, bigger artists, getting involved and contributing to the project. Like, Scaly and others, I've kind of been following them and fans of them for a while. So it'll definitely be interesting to see where they go and where they take this project. So definitely something worth keeping an eye on. Looks like floor is around 0.41. So still seeing a good amount of volume coming in here. A lot of listings. Looks like sales might have cooled off a little bit, but I think in general you definitely see these, pre-reveal pumps, post-reveal dumps. I think it's most projects follow that flow for a bit, and then a little bit of price discovery until the project finds its footing, and see where things end up going from there as new news comes out or anything else around it. So definitely something we wanted to talk about and chat through.
I'm curious about is they've done a great job leading up to this reveal, and I think minting out and creating a really attention grabbing process so far. But the part that is hard for me to understand, percent royalties. I see NFTs as a great way to generate funds, right? And for a business to function in that way is a really interesting way. And great mechanic that I think is going to change the way a lot of businesses function in the future. When looking at aliens, the thing that threw me off is, okay, 0% royalties could make sense potentially, but when you do a free mint and when you do 0% royalties, I just don't understand how, okay, you hold 10% back of that supply. Is it more of, okay, we want to fund something, it's going to take 15 ETH to do it, and because of that, we're going to sell 45 aliens, and then that's going to dump on the floor, right? So I'm curious what you guys think of that mechanic in the future and how that might work out, and we can speculate a little bit on that. But the second avenue of it is the reason why I like it and why I'm potentially looking to get in at around 0.35, 0.3 is the 0% royalties make it more appealing for these speculators, which is, I think, why they wanted to take this approach. Like, for me, this looks appetizing because I don't have to give up 5% of the sale to the creators, which is a typical kind of 5 to 7.5% royalty, or really the only thing you have to do is give up that 2.5% to OpenSea. But it made me really excited to see those one-of-ones and seeing those artists that they partnered up with, as well as the team behind it. It makes me think that they may have something up their sleeve that could make this a little bit more of a longer project rather than something that gets up to 0.5 or maybe already saw its top. I think they might have something up their sleeve for the next couple weeks.
Yeah, definitely. A bunch of different takes to unpack there. First thing, just especially with this project being 0%, I mean, any project, it really doesn't matter, but I try to list on X2Y2. Right now they have like basically no royalty fee. So if you're, especially something like this with 0%, like you can, flip in and out of this very easily on X2Y2 and kind of play these swing trades, in high quantity, selling right before the reveal, buying some of the dip, selling if it kind of takes a run again. It definitely is appealing to the traders and the degens, which I think they're getting a lot of their volume from right now. And kind of touching on the, the funding point, like if they've got, 20,000 or sorry, 2,000 of these locked up out of 10,000, that's roughly 1.5 million US at the current floor price. I'm not saying that, the floor would kind of stay the same if they started dumping, but, if I were them, I would start selling from that treasury account, like into these volume events, whether it's, the pre-reveal dump, selling some into this, or like the next news event, selling a couple more, and just kind of being transparent with the community, saying like, hey, like this is how we kind of decided to raise funds. So don't, get too concerned when you see our treasury account selling some here. It's to, build a bit of a fund to potentially fund ventures that, only transact in, dollars or ETH, and they might not, accept, an NFT as payment. It's a pretty cool model. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on that model and kind of how that can kind of shift the market a bit, or if we're going to see that more often.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have some, at a high level, I think it's something that can certainly work. It seems to be a bit newer, and I'm not aware of other projects kind of following this type of model or going in this direction. I mean, as a creator and founder of WGMI, I mean, I can't say I fully am on board with the approach of, a free mint with a, 0% royalty where, but I think it all depends on the people behind their project, what else they have going on, if this is just kind of like a side thing for them or an experiment, just to kind of see how things play out. I mean, it definitely seems like it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I do think, as you continue to grow, it's definitely nice to have some of those secondary sales or some of that money, that's coming in as volume is increasing and as sales are going off. But it'll be, I've seen a few people on Twitter and others kind of hoping this isn't the new normal or the new meta of, 0% royalty projects, where it is just, if you're investing in a project personally, I want to know they're in it for the long haul. They're around for a while. They're going to have funds coming in, and everything else. And this could definitely be tricky, difficult to, see how long they're in it for, how they're going to keep funding up, and how they're going to keep being able to kind of develop and build out the project. But, just, I think that's just kind of where I am on it and how I'm thinking about it, but I think it's certainly something that can work. It's good to see a different approach, and I think we'll see kind of what happens from here. I mean, it can certainly be successful. They've had some good success so far, and a lot of buzz, excitement, and hype around the mint. Around this reveal here. Definitely curious to see if they've have they said they're locking up their supply for any amount of time? Do we know if they've started to sell off or sell into this volume at all? I'm curious of some of that stuff, but I just, we know what it takes to kind of keep things moving forward. But if this is like a side project or a side gig, I think it definitely kind of affects how much money they need to be making from it. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how it plays out, and something I'll definitely be keeping an eye on as we continue moving forward.
Yeah, it looks like they kind of have a disclaimer on the Treasury allocation where it says any sales will be completely transparent and announced in advance. So curious to what that looks like, if they've done any of that announcing at this point, or they've held everything. But I mean, Larva Labs, I think they held punks to the founders. That worked out pretty well for them in terms of not dumping early into a project and not and then kind of holding for the long run.
Necessarily relevant, but what you were saying earlier about X2, Y2, and that being a portion of where you like to go in and actually sell and have a little bit faster in terms of, you can quickly flip in and out of these projects. I'm curious what percentage of your sales of when you do sell into something, how much of that is on OpenSea or on X2, Y2? Because I see actually a good amount of activity, possibly even more than on OpenSea, actually being on X2, Y2, and maybe for me, I'm just thinking about, hey, what if I put in an offer via OpenSea at 0.37, 0.36? I get that accepted, and I can quickly list on X2, Y2. If that being done and what that would look like. But I was just curious and love would love for you to add on there, Ray, as far as the X2Y2.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I generally list from WGMI to OpenSea based on the OpenSea trait floors. That's kind of like my first go-to. And then I'll also then go over to my X2Y2 or list from Gem potentially to list onto X2Y2 and looks rare. And I try to make, the X2Y2 price be maybe a little bit lower because, these are all these sales, or at least a good chunk of them are being picked up by these aggregators where, if you're looking at a collection on Gem, you're seeing, all marketplaces. You're not really filtering by, this is an OpenSea, this is a looks rare. You may be a bit nervous buying established blue chips from the other marketplaces. You may want to kind of take a look at the assets, make sure they're not flagged. But for projects like this, all the volume's coming, or like a good chunk of the volume's coming from aggregators, and they don't really care where you're listing it. So you're getting almost as much exposure, especially at this high volume. So it's definitely beneficial to list on X2Y2 for the lower fees. Looks rare for the lower fees and the rewards. Definitely things that can kind of increase your gains over time. Something that I take advantage of almost anytime I list anything.
maybe it would be best to just move on to the other sections that we had to cover.
Yeah, you're good for me. Maybe we'll reset the room, plug the YouTube and move on to 10KTF.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Sorry,
sounds good to me.
Awesome. Cool. Well, guys, if you are just listening now, this is the weekly NFT show with WGMI.io. We do this every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We're breaking down what's been going on within the NFT and crypto market and providing additional tools and analytics using WGMI.io, the portfolio and project tracking tool. If you want to see what we are talking about, we're on YouTube live streaming as well to provide that additional visual, because unfortunately Twitter Spaces doesn't allow us to do that yet, and at the same time allow people to come up to speak. So while we're waiting on that, the second pinned tweet, if you go and you scroll, you can click on that link and it will take you there, so you can see really what we are talking about there. And if you would like to add on additional thoughts, as much as I like to hear Tom and Ray share their thoughts, we also would love to hear what you have to say and add on to that conversation. So feel free to request, and we'll bring you up here so you can add on to that conversation. But moving on to what may have been one of the big events of the week, and has been taking up, I think, a lot of the attention within the space within the last few weeks, is the 10KTF drop. Ray, I know you are pretty heavily involved and know what's going on within this project and maybe have a little bit of a strategy of what you're planning to do in the future, but I'd love for you to break this down for us.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about the 10KTF drop a bit last week, kind of ahead of the drop this week. It finished up yesterday with an airdrop of the final crates to people from 10KTF ecosystem, people who held 8 badges, and some of the OG holders through the snapshots. Unfortunately, I did not qualify for either of those. I got into the project a bit late and I missed a few of the missions, just from, just not remembering to send and stake my, materials to the different missions, which is kind of kicking myself. It's very little effort, and it would have been, a nice little bit of reward from the crates. But this project is kind of, it's almost like confused me in terms of how little attention it's been getting this week. The volume's been very low. I think there haven't been a ton of sales. There also haven't been a ton of listings. 100, 130 listings, 150 listings, kind of over time. Like, I haven't seen like it get outside of those ranges, and you're looking at total volume of 320 ETH. And this drop's been kind of anticipated for a bit. You can look at the sales we're showing on the screen right now. We're seeing most of the sales are offers that have been accepted. Not a ton of action on the floor. It reminds me a decent amount of the Bored and Dangerous drop from Valet, Jenkins Valet, where you just have a lot of diamond-handed individuals who are very involved and know the complexity of the project, who mint and hold, and you struggle to attract that outside like user base. I think they tried a bit here by extending the allow list to ape holders. So basically, anybody could have participated in this drop by just converting ETH to ape beforehand and entering an allow list. And based on kind of how the mint played out, it seems like that allow list didn't even fill out completely. So there's not much attention being paid here, and that's sort of when it's almost a good time to look at entering a project, is like during those lower attention phases. It could continue to taper a bit, but I think we start seeing this turn around ahead of the kind of revealing and opening of the crates next week. Looking at the price of ape, like 690 right now, but even talking about how under the radar this went. I mean, they sold 10K of these crates at that price. They raised 1 to 1.4 million ape. I'm not exactly sure how many were airdrop versus how many were sold, but I think at least 10K were actually sold. So that's like somewhere in the 7 to 10 million range they raised on this sale. USD, but raised in ApeCoin. So that was good to see for their ecosystem. They're getting funded. They continue to build and deliver, and they have an interesting partnership with Yuga. I feel like at this point they're one of the most tied in projects with the other side. Other D's project. In that initial demo that took place, we were looking for Wagmi-san's glasses in the other side. So there's definitely some ties there. They have the ties to the ApeCoin. It's interesting to kind of like see where this is going to go going forward. And like Clemente said, I've been following it. I understand what's going on in the ecosystem. I know how all the pieces play together at this point, but like the complexity from an outsider, it's like it may be very high. Like Tom, as somebody outside of this project, like what's your like overall general opinion of like 10KTF, and like what kind of knowledge do you have about it as somebody who like really hasn't invested in it at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I know we have Brendan with his hand up right now, but it's just been something. I feel like I'm already spread pretty thin. I mean, I definitely, I have my ape, I have my mutant. I don't have an ApeCoin bag anymore, so that was something. At least here, it was like, do I really want to, buy into or buy some ApeCoin just to be able to mint some of these crates, and the mechanics around the missions or the quests definitely sounds very, very cool, exciting, interesting, innovative. But it just for no specific reason, hasn't really grabbed my attention too much, or hasn't been something that I've, been heavily investing in or paying attention to. And that could be, my own, mistake or fault there. But I think, curious to hear what Brandon has to say and what his question is to, around this.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And kind of talking about that, limited amount of sell pressure, or sell pressure, and high buy pressure can really move that floor price. I mean, looking at the 10KTF collection for blanks in the 10KTF stockroom collection on OpenSea, like you're looking at 0.4 for socks being the cheapest wearable blank. The day pack's 0.8, the hoodies 1, the 5 panels 1.1. Like looking at all these blanks on the original, and knowing that the level 2 items are going to be like multiple times better than the level 1 items. Like on their site, they break down kind of, or it might have been in the Discord, they break down the power differences, based on these missions. Sending them with more powerful items will generate more ApeCoin. So it'll be interesting to see if the market eventually kind of catches on with the combat crates or the blanks. Does it move in either direction? Does the season 1 blanks drop a bit in price to kind of meet, or do the season 2 blanks start trending upwards and then doubling the price of the season 1 blanks? It maybe a bit of both probably is the right answer, but I don't think it's necessarily priced appropriately now, and I don't think it's getting much attention this week. that being said, I'm wrong a lot, so I wouldn't take everything I say, as gospel, but it just seems like almost a no-brainer to me. I may end up getting a couple more crates before it gets much more attention.
Is outside of the ecosystem, and my problem with this, my more of a bearish take here, Ray, is the problem with some of these really intricate storylines is I think it creates two problems, right, or two sides to it. One is the very good part of it, which is it keeps your community very engaged, it keeps them excited, it creates a lot of super fans that are very, very excited to what's going to unfold, and like, hey, this is it, which is amazing. But on the flip side, like it for the NFT collector or the trader that doesn't have as much time, or maybe doesn't like to follow along the story so quickly and say, hey, this is, every Thursday I'm going to jump on and watch the video and then do the quests and the battles and all that stuff. It has a negative effect on the floor price at the end of the day. At least my take on that is because the people that are least engaged are going to be the ones that end up selling. So the more intricate the storyline gets, the more that crowd is going to get less engaged and sell, right? And for me, one of the things that I was curious about is I personally thought that for maybe the lower tier NFT holder, right? Someone that doesn't just have 0.5 or 0.6 ETH in Ape to deploy into a level 2 crate, but maybe has been holding very early on, what happens to them if they don't have a level 2 crate from now on? Like I was surprised to not see their level of discontent with how that was handled. And it seems like to me they're getting a little bit left out from what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, for sure. So I started staking. I think I staked on 4, or I went on 4 of the 8 missions with one item, and it was a day pack, and I was rewarded with somewhere around like 12 ape coin or something. So somebody who might have gotten all 8 might have gotten enough ape coin over time to mint or offset the mint cost. And if you're a super fan who's been invested from the beginning, I think January was the initial snapshot. If you were holding through all these snapshots, you got airdropped a crate, and if you went on all 8 missions, you got airdropped a crate. So, as a super fan who's been holding for a long period of time, you were taken care of. But to your point, somebody who might have just picked this up a month or 2 ago, and hasn't had the chance to go on all the missions and wasn't able to be in that first snapshot, they may be feeling a little shortchanged at this point. And now they may be a bit behind the 8 ball when you're looking at how much better the level 2 gear is than the level 1 gear. Yeah, I think one thing that I'm excited for is rolling out the WGMI newsfeed tool and get alerted every time there's an actionable event for 10KTF, because I know it's every Thursday, but it feels like sometimes I might not be there. I might forget. It'd be nice to get those notifications. Get that when I'm checking my portfolio in the morning, seeing that here's a link to right to where I need to go to take my 10KTF actions. Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people in general are kind of kicking themselves, leaving stuff on the table, airdrops, claims, quests, all that. And hopefully, we're working on some stuff, and we'll talk a bit about it throughout the week. That should help our users, fight against that, make sure they are maximizing the amount of claims and all the utility that they have from their holdings.
Yeah, and I think that's been part of, going back to the original question you guys asked me. I mean, I just felt like I was kind of behind the eight ball behind, understanding all the mechanics and kind of how, the different projects related to one another and everything else. I mean, if I did have something that was kind of informing me, hey, make sure you do this claim, do this quest, make sure you're following along and keeping up with it, could kind of use some of that to really make sure I'm not falling too far behind, or just being able to get me from, where the beginning of the project where I wasn't very involved. And even if I wanted to be now, it just feels like there's a lot to learn, a lot to understand, and a lot to, just figure out kind of where things go from here. So definitely think it's been a great chat, and definitely another project we'll be sure to keep an eye on here, and, continue to look at some of the price action and see if there's any charts, graphs, metrics that we can continue to provide to kind of help those make some informed decisions around where this is going from here. We want to take some time to reset and jump into, I know we're coming up on time a bit here, 2:00 Eastern time. So I think we had one or two more things to talk about, and definitely open to anyone who might be interested in hopping on stage and chatting with us as well. But I'll hand it over to you, Clemente, for a sec, just to kind of set things a bit.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, lots of good stuff covered there. Crazy how fast these can fly when we're just sitting here. Never knew that time would fly when you're sitting here talking about JPEGs. So always always a fun moment. But yeah, if you're just tuning in, this is the WGMI weekly NFT market chat. So what we're doing here is we're breaking down what's been going on, any major news within the NFT market, and providing some deeper analysis or insights that we found while using the WGMI tool. And in case you want to actually see the visual side of it, we are not just live on Twitter Spaces. We are live on YouTube as well. So be sure to check that out. Click the link. It's the second pinned tweet up at the top. And on that note of the news feed feature that we are rolling out, and if you're curious what that experience might be like to be alerted whenever there's major news regarding your project, we are testing out, I'll pin the tweet up, but we have recently launched an account called WGMI Newsroom account. So if you want to follow it, any major news or developments around the top 10 to 12 projects, we have the official list, which we will release hopefully this week, of exactly what projects we're going to be breaking down and keeping track of. Obviously, that list will grow over time, but definitely something that we recommend following. But moving forward, I'm excited for this one, Ray, because I know you are pretty, you've been talking about it a good amount, but Crapopolis crap chickens. If you want to go ahead and take it from here, I don't know what else I have to say about that.
Yeah, that's a good intro. So for anyone who's not familiar with this is a NFT drop occurred early this week. It's from Fox Studios. The creator of Community, Rick and Morty, Dan Harmon, is writing and producing this new show, Crapopolis, on Fox, and this is an NFT drop surrounding kind of that show. You're minting these crap chickens. It hasn't gotten much attention. It hasn't minted out. It's something that I minted personally, and I believe Tom and Brennan have as well during the kind of the early access mint. Just so full disclosure there. But I'm very surprised to see this not get much attention. I think with some of the projects we talked about earlier, 8liens got a good amount of attention this week. The Rare Pepe Yacht Club we haven't talked about yet, but they got a decent amount of attention as well. This kind of flew under the radar alongside of 10KTF, which surprised me a bit. I feel like you always hear a good amount of Rick and Morty fans in the space. It's kind of like that age demographic that matches up well with NFT collectors. And there's been so many other NFT projects that have kind of rode along this promise of a TV show. Where they, everyone's hyped, like, yeah, we got these NFTs. they're going to produce a show, like, and then, you know, we're all going to kind of benefit from it. And like, it's almost like this is probably going to be the first show that has NFTs involved with it at this point on a major television network. So, you know, the lack of attention, the lack of momentum, I haven't, you know, really kind of dug in to kind of see the sentiment about it, but it just hasn't really, you know, shown up on crypto Twitter for me. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, big fan of Dan Harmon, and you know, the different shows and projects that he's you know, been around. I mean, loved Community. Definitely thought that this project would have done a little bit better. I mean, I think the general sentiment around some of these projects, you know, like Stoner Cats and some of the others, you know, has definitely been somewhat negative around the community. So I guess it'll be interesting to see, you know, are people viewing it as a cash grab? You know, is, like you said, you know, do they not think, you know, that there will be a TV show or anything like that? I mean, it's hard to think, you know, with Fox and others actually behind it, that you're not going to see something come out of this project here. But definitely a little concerning knowing that there's, I think, a supply somewhere just over 10K, and only 2,892 have been minted so far. You know, as of yesterday, the floor seemed to maintain around 0.15, which was the mint price. You know, dipped a bit down to 0.09 now. You know, really not seeing much volume, not many sales. Listings continuing to tick up. At least, you know, looking at things today. So it'll be interesting to kind of see where this project goes from here, or what the plan will be, if they'll just kind of leave things, you know, open. I haven't looked into how many might have minted, you know, minted today compared to yesterday, but definitely a bit concerning seeing it, you know, stalled at just under 3K, knowing that there's still 7K left to go. You know, what's it going to take for that to possibly mint out? I know they've, at least on the site, there's an FAQ around, you know, some kind of egg mechanic, which is like an ERC20 that'll be accumulated by holders over time. It's not entirely clear what the utility is around those. Doesn't appear like there's a staking mechanism there, but it does sound like more chickens means more eggs. But you know, is it possibly related to voting on show plot decisions or some kind of merch around it? You know, I think these things, it's cool to think about how NFTs and entertainment and shows, movies can kind of, you know, play with one another. And, you know, is this something that we'll start to see more of in the space? At the same time, I think more projects who kind of come in and potentially swing and miss here is going to discourage other projects, other networks, other sites from kind of going this path or going down this route. So, you know, it's possible the space is still too early, still too young, you know, for you know, projects or companies to come in and try to be successful in this area, you know. But it's yeah, I was definitely a little surprised that you know, project with Dan Harmon, Fox's backing, that it didn't do a bit better than it has. But I feel like it was definitely worth bringing up. I know there was, you know, a bit of competition for kind of attention and eyeballs in the space over the past week or so. You know, 0.15 could have been seen as a little bit high with the, I know they dropped the ETH price as, you know, as or they dropped the mint price as the USD price of ETH climbed a bit over the past week. So it's kind of nice for them to at least, you know, hey, USD price going up, you know, we're going to drop the ETH price of the mint. You know, maybe they should have dropped it a bit lower. Maybe that's something that they will do if the project does continue to kind of be stagnant here. But it'll definitely be interesting to see kind of where things go, you know, after this past week. Mm-hmm.
Of what, in terms of going for, I think, the PFP role, or I don't know what their vision for this was, but I think a lot of, you know, if you do some sort of access pass or frame it a little bit differently, and maybe something where as the storyline develops, you can mint this pass that you're given into one of the characters, right? And have some sort of gamification behind it, rather than just going for these crap chickens, right? And maybe it's something that the creatives really thought, and there's something where they'll be able to surprise us. But I think we're starting to learn that just because you are a well-established Web2 brand or creator or influencer, it does not correlate to success within the NFT market. We're seeing that over and over again, which to me is really surprising. But I also kind of like to see that you can't just come in here and just because you've had success in the past means you're going to have success in this. So yeah, whoever's sharing the screen, I mean, I was just going through the roadmap idea, and I like it as far as token gated content, meaning that you can watch exclusive behind the scenes. So as if you own a chicken, you can watch exclusive behind the scenes content and participate in live watch parties. You have exclusive show rights, so you get to take part in deciding various show details that will actually, so you get a role in this storyline. You can buy token gated merch that's these chicken holders, and you get access to meet and greets, drops, and giveaways. So look, if I would just see this roadmap and someone showed me this roadmap and then goes, hey, it's Dan Harmon, the creator of Rick and Morty and other very well-established shows that have had success, I'd be a buyer. I'd say for 0.15, that is an absolute steal. I'd love to have this. But to me, it was possibly this crap chicken and the chicken PFP stuff that to me, I wasn't necessarily a fan of and why I won't be minting. But that's kind of my take. I'm curious if you guys agree or disagree with me there.
Yeah. I know I hadn't thought about that, but I think you hit the nail on the head kind of. Like this is a PFP project that doesn't succeed as a PFP for a project that doesn't need to be a PFP really. When you look at it that way, like you said, an access pass may have made more sense, or like, something that, people weren't expecting to use as a PFP. They were probably looking to build community, but I just, like you said, I don't think it succeeds as a PFP. I don't see, many people using this chicken as their profile picture, especially since, the show is still in development. It's not out. It's not like it's a culturally relevant PFP. It's kind of just for this project at this point. I mean, I don't hate the artwork. I think some of it's funny, but I like I said, it's not very PFPable, and it probably doesn't need to be as a project.
Show, right? You look at, for example, Reeker's Care Bears or Nickelodeon, that kind of area. If you don't know what each person, when they're watching a show, they resonate with a specific character, right? And I would hope that this show isn't strictly about chickens. It seems like chickens are going to be the currency that they use to pay, or we'll see that develop. But it would be awesome to have this start as an access pass, and then as the storyline develops, as these episodes air and there's character development that people resonate with, then that could be something that could turn into some sort of PFP structure, right? Where if you maybe burn your access pass, you can get one of these characters, and it's randomized, and there's some game theory behind that, which I would have loved to see. But I think either way, TV production is watching this drop very carefully, and hopefully they learn from it. And in the future, we don't see people in P route and get themselves stuck in this kind of market, but start with that different approach of possibly having that access pass. And I think the last thing I'll say on that, I don't want to harp on it too much, but when you have, I think about the WGMI NFT, right? We didn't have to go, or Tom didn't have to go create a PFP just because that's what everyone resonated with, right? But rather create this pass, which makes the focus of the NFT the tool and the utility. And you're not automatically getting compared to all the other PFP projects because that's not what you are. So those are my thoughts on it, and the end of my rant here.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of traits, and yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at the roadmap, you see who's behind it. Definitely makes a lot of sense. Where like, just seems like that was should be a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement around it, And I think trying to go the PFP route, going the 10K drop route. I think they will hopefully look back at that and would learn a lot, or will learn a lot from this approach, from this from this experience. I did want to just call out, the Hot Wings Collective. It's a podcast. They just launched a podcast recently. We recorded an episode last week, which should air a few weeks here. But John Hoyos sat down with Tommaso Sandretto, which is the Chief Revenue and Investment Officer for Blockchain Creative Labs. I haven't had a chance to listen to the podcast yet, but this will definitely something I might want to listen to and kind of just hear, the thought process behind the project and them getting into the space, investing $100 million into Web3. I think it'll be, hopefully this provides some more insight and clarity around some of the decisions that were made and, really help understand kind of where the project is going and, why they went this route and maybe what some of their plans will be, following this, at least as of now, unsuccessful kind of drop that, that they've done. But definitely be curious to see where things go from here.
Yeah, so I know we're a little over on time. I'm good to keep running. We can talk a bit about kind of ETH and kind of the overall market, blue chip, check in and things like that if we want to, if we still have time here, Tom.
Yeah, I think we could, just pull up one more chart. I mean, kind of have a stop around 230 here, but definitely could go in here and maybe pull up this chart that I know you've put together using the custom chart creator. Looks like blue chips here over the past month. Might be missing a project here in the list, but
yeah, it should be fine. I think I put CryptoPunks in there. You can probably add that for anyone listening on the space. We're basically looking at the WGMI custom chart creator. I think Clemente can pin either my tweet or one of our other tweets showing kind of the blue chip movement to the space here. But basically describing kind of what we've seen is we've seen kind of ETH rise over the last few weeks. And, a lot of these blue chip projects have fallen in ETH value almost together, kind of at the same time. I know we've heard a lot of, Moonbird's FUD as their floor has kept dropping, but it doesn't seem like it's a much brighter picture for many of these projects. You kind of see Apes, Doodles, and Moonbirds all almost moving kind of in unison, dropping in ETH price by about the same percentages over the last, month or so. CryptoPunks have been a bit of an outlier. They've kind of performed a bit better over time, which is, I wouldn't want to say expected, but, being a fine art and being a fine art project and, fine art, holding value over time kind of makes a little bit more sense why that's been holding up a bit. I think I have another graph here to kind of show the Bored Ape ecosystem and how that's been kind of trending with each other over the last month or so. The apes and I don't know, is that showing dogs there? I think you need to just add 4 for the Kennel Club. Yep, I didn't have that set. But apes and mutants have kind of been following that blue chip trend I've been talking about, dipping quite a bit since early July, but dogs have almost matched the run up on ETH. I guess people are speculating that mecha dogs that were released on the Yuga deck are kind of due up next for some utility, for some love with that project. I think we've seen similar things with Doodles and Goblins and Proof. CryptoPunks and the Kennel Dogs are kind of the two examples that have kind of been bucking that trend. And I know that you've been talking a bit about this, Clemente. Like you hear a lot about 1 ETH equals 1 ETH and kind of that mentality, but it seems to kind of be going against these trends. You want to talk a bit more about kind of what you've been seeing over the last month?
Yeah, and we tweeted about this from our account this morning. I'll pin the tweet, but I want to read out this so since July 1st. So here are blue chips floor prices, not all of them, because we had limited amounts of characters in the tweet. But you look at Bored Apes, they were at July, and this is from July 1st to today. They were at 90 ETH, 94,000 floor, and now it's at 84 ETH, 158,000. Moonbirds went from 22 ETH, 23,000 to 14 ETH, 26,000. So they all follow a very similar trend where ETH about a month ago was sitting at $1,100. Now it's sitting at, last time I checked, it was at 1880. So you saw almost a 80% increase in price, and right around a similar drop in price for NFTs. So my theory is everyone talks about 1 ETH equals 1 ETH, but I don't think the space is mature enough for that yet. I think it's mainly, at least in the last month or so, it's mainly been valued in USD. So that makes me think, okay, going forward, what does my strategy need to be? Do I want to, because before I've been primarily in just holding ETH and deploying my capital in that idea of, hey, it's just I'm going to value everything in ETH, and when ETH hits 10K, for example, then I cash out a little bit. But it makes me think going forward, hey, maybe I should have 3 separate pools, right? My NFT portfolio and my ETH portfolio, but then have a chunk of change in USDC and actually have it a majority in USDC and play these little drops in the market when it does happen. And it would be a little bit more of a bearish case, but look, based on what I'm seeing, it makes me think that, hey, maybe we're not as 1 ETH equals 1 ETH as we thought we were. And maybe most people do still value everything in USD. But I'm curious what you think, Ray and Tom, on this perspective.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a few different pools of people and different groups. I mean, it's definitely nice in situations like this to, to be a bit liquid and to be able to buy into some of these projects when the ETH price of the projects is going down. I know at the same time, you'll see a lot of people that are trying to sell or kind of, maybe use this as an opportunity to get out of projects. I definitely think a lot of people are, still navigating the market. They might say 1 ETH equals 1 ETH, but I think the actions and their kind of sell and buy decisions, say otherwise. So, I think a lot of these projects that are all kind of trending down in ETH price are, I think definitely the result of, the USD price of ETH going up. And I think once that, could stabilize a little bit, whether that's, here at 1900, whether it's around 2K, whatever that might be, I think at that point, I think things will, possibly see the NFT price or the ETH price of NFTs going back up again. I think we've experienced this a few different times in the past. And, I think it's nice to see ETH, when it does find that stability and kind of trade sideways for a little bit, that's when you do see NFTs start to run a bit. So I guess we'll see how that, how that might change or, if that might happen here over the next few weeks.
Yeah. Another thought, maybe we'll see it trend sideways, but I think that chaos is more likely in the near future. The merge is coming up in about a month. You could see some people like this drop off may not even be related to the price of ETH. It may be people just de-risking ahead of, the merge, maybe taking some money off the table, taking it off the blockchain, just to kind of safeguard against any potential catastrophe. Also, a lot of people, they hear strategy coming into the merge of, stacking ETH rather than stacking NFTs, because if there's going to be a fork to a proof of work chain, that proof of work chain is going to copy your assets, and ETH will be a lot more liquid if you're looking to, turn it for a quick buck on the proof of work chain than potentially a copy of an NFT that may not, be as liquid or hold as much value on that forked chain. Hopefully, we don't see prolonged chaos, and hopefully that, the proof of stake chain kind of asserts dominance early, and we see most of the action there. The cynic in me thinks that it may be a bit drawn out, but it'll be definitely interesting to watch that play out over time.
I mean, that does not, anything related to ETH being chaos or volatile makes me think that that's not good news for NFTs. Makes me a bit bearish hearing your perspective. To be honest, I didn't understand what you're saying from a technicals point of view, but one of the things I'm curious about, Ray, is that affecting your approach coming into? I mean, we're almost a month into that merge happening. Is that affecting your NFT strategy, your ETH strategy? Are you a bit more cautious? What is your strategy going into it?
I think I'll start trying to liquidate some of my lower conviction plays to build up a bit of ETH ahead of the merge. And I don't know how much I'm going to, try to set myself up to be able to liquidate on the proof of work chain. I know there's already a few dApps out there that are going to be supporting the proof of work chain, but I need to look into it, see what kind of setup it's going to require, and if it's worth, that investment and, the time to get really ready for that or not. I prefer, just to hope that the proof of stake chain is going to win out quickly, and that, maybe a few days after the merge, everything kind of steadies out, and then we kind of see a bit of a run. But I definitely am going to liquidate a bit ahead of it just in case, but I'm not going to drastically shift my approach.
Keeping the ETH that you do that in ETH, or are you going to transfer some of that into some USDC possibly?
So the stuff I want to keep safe. I mean, you can't not transferring it to USDC won't necessarily make it completely safe. There's, it's still on chain. You'd have to, take it to somewhere centralized. Take it out to Coinbase, convert it to cash, maybe even pull it out of Coinbase, depending on, if there's a large scale catastrophe. Then, sorry, can you hear me now? I had a phone call come through.
Yeah,
Two texts from friends and a family member of mine basically text me, hey, should I buy Ethereum right now? Like, it's gone on a pretty big like, I see it's doing pretty well. So that to me is as we usually like to see it, it's usually a sell signal. So as soon as I got that text, I was definitely looking to liquidate a little bit and maybe go take that route and take Ray's advice and to not just turn into USDC, but actually go more towards a centralized route. Just if I'm doing that, I might as well go all the way and just de-risk a little bit. So I'm not completely putting all my eggs in one basket. So yeah, I appreciate your context there, Ray, and I'll definitely take it into consideration.
Yeah, I think it does make sense to try to err a little on the side of caution, and just to try to, not go in over your head with some of the unknowns and uncertainty, that's around out there. And I guess, you might could miss out on some opportunities, but at the same time, it could mean having more cash available, and being a bit more liquid for other potential opportunities that might exist after that. So, if things, if prices little bit into the unknown uncertainty of the merge itself from an NFT standpoint. I think then you could kind of have a lot of cash or assets to deploy to try to buy things on sale after that. So seems like the best, safest approach right now. But I guess as new information, news, updates come out around the merge and around macro environment and everything else, I think it's worth obviously taking all of it into consideration with the decisions you're making.
I know we have a few more projects to talk about here, or just a few more news items. You can kind of get through them pretty quickly. The first is the Tornado Cash kind of shut down by the U.S. And I believe one of the developers got arrested in somewhere in Scandinavia, Norway maybe. Kind of how this has been like a big news story over this, these past few days. Like, what have you heard about this so far, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to stay on top of it a little bit. Luckily, haven't really done much with Tornado Cash or messed with it too much. But definitely, a little concerning that to be able to contribute code to an open source project and be able to kind of get arrested or just seems like a situation kind of setting a tough precedent there. for projects that maybe people took, or, you saw people using Tornado Cash to kind of send ETH to various popular wallets and everything else over the past week. I mean, what's going to happen there? What might happen to those people, to those wallets? It is definitely a little scary. I saw a pretty good tweet. I'll pull up here as well. Just talking about writing open source code and how it's, kind of a right to individual freedom, privacy, being a core value of Ethereum itself. Excuse me. And, being kind of the largest attack of that, it's definitely something I think we need to keep an eye on and see how, does that hurt, developers in their mindset of contributing to some of these projects, contributing to open source, libraries and ecosystems. What does that do? Like if you could potentially be at risk, even if you're developing something without any ill intent, if that gets used for bad, by bad actors, or gets used for illegal activity, I mean, are you subject to being arrested or being, fined or whatever else it is, just for contributing to some of those projects? I think it's definitely a slippery slope, and something we'll have to, kind of see what the real precedent is, when this, if it goes to court, and kind of what some of the rulings are around it. But definitely something that, as a developer, as a coder, as someone who, wants to be contributing and providing to as many projects as possible, definitely scary to think, well, I really need to think about all the positives, but then also the potential negatives that could come into play with something that I might contribute to. And then how could that, what are the risks, for me doing that? And I think that's, something that, you definitely don't want to see people feeling like values or freedoms are being taken away by providing code, by contributing to some of these projects. So, I mean, it's kind of raises another, the whole CCO thing. Like, what if projects are used for other negative purposes, or negative, just negative materials or negative kind of derivatives around that? I mean, it's scary to think of the precedent that something like this can kind of set around some of those projects as well, and around anything that might kind of happen, for derivative works or contributing to some of those open source ecosystems.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I haven't followed too much outside of that arrest, and I definitely agree that, this is a tricky line to walk. I mean, it's tough for, both the ecosystem and the government. Like, how do you, police illegal activity if, these means to do so are, decentralized? It becomes very, very interesting. It's kind of the whole kind of bigger goal of Web3 is to, decentralize power a bit. And I don't think a lot of the people in power are necessarily thrilled with that idea. So it'll be an interesting battle to watch. I'm sure this is going to be one of many kind of small battles in that bigger war over time.
Yeah, definitely. So something to keep an eye on there. I know we wanted to talk about the Tiffany's, the floor here, and I think there's a redemption deadline coming up.
Yeah, I think 9 p.m. Eastern tonight, so 6.5 hours roughly, and that means like afterwards, these unredeemed boxes will not, be available for redemption. I don't know if there's any kind of traits or like to show if they've been redeemed or not. I guess I see 178 have the redeemed trait right now out of 250. So interesting to see what happens with those. I see one currently for sale that's been redeemed, but the floor is about 23 right now. And you'd have to imagine like the value on these like falls off a cliff after this deadline, right?
Yeah, unless there's some unknown utility or some kind of unknown. Yeah, I'm not too sure what happens with these after, after this deadline here. So it'll be interesting to see what the price does once that deadline is hit. Do we start seeing these prices dip even more substantially as we get closer to 9 p.m. Eastern? I mean, we're 6.5 hours away from that right now. So, yeah, we'll have to see what kind of happens with the project. I don't know. There's not too much here on their Twitter feed around around it. But
it's interesting to see the people selling here at 23. You know, it was a 30 ETH mint, right? They're taking quite a haircut. I guess they just really didn't want the pendant. They were just speculating.
Yeah, and I think that's something where it's tough to speculate on something that high. I mean, personally, if I had the funds and it was something I was interested in, I mean, I really like my punk, but not that much to kind of get something minted or to kind of get that piece created. But I definitely understand the market for it, and that there's a lot of people who were very interested in it and did kind of claim or did kind of redeem their pendants or their necklace, for their punks. But yeah, it just seems like something was a little scary to be speculating at those price ranges. And you're kind of seeing it now with some of the more recent sales over the past hour or so being pretty, substantially under that mint price. So, I mean, I guess some of these, it's possible, people speculated, these could potentially be people that didn't actually mint and maybe bought under 30 ETH, trying to speculate that the price would kind of go up again. But I think a lot of people are probably at this point trying to cut their losses here, but it'll be interesting to kind of see where that goes after 9 p.m. So something else worth keeping an eye on there. And I think one last thing before we wrap up here, just checking back in on the, aliens. So it looks like that floor dipped. I think last time when we were talking about it, about an hour or so ago, it was somewhere around 0.4. So looking at, 0.34 floor right now, at least on, across OpenSea. Still seeing some sales, a decent amount of volume here, but definitely see that price take a bit of a dip. It'll be interesting to see if it finds its footing or where that kind of stabilizes. I guess let me see if I can kind of clear this chart, and I think I added aliens. Yep. So let's see if we could kind of take a look at the floor here versus some of the offers. So that spread has kind of remained about the same. The highest collection offer coming in at about, I guess 0.41, 0.43. I think I've had this page open for a bit and haven't reset my floors, so I'll have to refresh those real quick. But it looks like here we go. So best offer is 0.33 and a 0.35 floor. So 0.02 spread right now. Seeing some offers accepted here as well. So I wonder if it'll find a bottom somewhere around this 0.3-ish range, or if we'll see a bounce back from here. But just wanted to, before we signed off, and follow up on that like we said we would. But kind of hand it back over to you, Clemente, to kind of wrap things up. But definitely appreciate everyone who tuned in here and kind of hung out with us this afternoon. Appreciate you taking the time. And Chopper or Victor or Christian, if you guys would like to come on stage and chat about anything, definitely open to doing that. Otherwise, I think we can kind of wrap it up.
Yeah. And based on what Ray was telling me about the ETH merge, I'm definitely not going to be buying any NFTs. I'm going to sell it all. So thank you, Ray, for that. Sending it all to the bank. So, but yeah, guys, thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We do this every single week. So you guys will stick around every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll do this for about an hour and a half, and we'll so be sure to join us next week. And as far as what we got on the docket for next week from WGMI's point of view, we're excited to share some more details, finally, of our newsfeed feature, where we are looking to help people save a lot of time on their tracking their NFT portfolio through a little bit of a new notification system and news feed feature we're looking to build out. We're really excited to share it, so stay tuned for that. And you guys have a great weekend, great rest of your day, and we will see you all next week. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Take
We're
care,
gonna make
everybody.
it.